So this house had no coach lights, no boxes, no wiring, no switch, nothing. And the homeowner wanted it done clean, code compliant, and permanent. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how I built this from scratch. Stay till the end to see the final results. So the homeowner picked out these beautiful lights. We're going to put one over here. Then we're going to put one all the way at the end on the right hand side, and then we're going to go to this one and one all the way here at the end. Now we're going to install the switch on this back wall here, so as soon as they step into the garage they can turn it on. We just have to figure out where the stud is so we can drop the wire in the same bay. Then we're going to run the switch leg through the attic access. We're going to run it to the first light, which is going to be here in this area. Once we poke out, we're going to go up into the attic, then go to the middle one and to the end. I'm picking up 3 half-inch pancake boxes, which is going to be perfect for the stucco. Once we chisel the stucco out, those are going to sit in there perfectly. And for the switch, we're going to go with the Lutron Cassetta. These are amazing. You can use these on your smartphone and set up specific times to turn them on and off. These are great. Now, I always highly recommend to consult with the homeowner on the specific height that these are going to go, because once you get them in place, there is no going back. And you don't want the homeowner saying, hey, I really don't like the way they look. Can we go a little bit higher or a little bit lower? Nope. Once the height is confirmed, I use the pancake box to trace exactly where I'm going to chop it out. Now, once you get it all traced out, I'm using a simple chisel. It's a concrete chisel. You can pick it up at Home Depot, Lowe's, or any hardware store. And I'm staying within that line. Now, luckily, this stucco was fairly new, so it wasn't that hard. So you got to be careful that you don't take off too much. So it's better to just take your time, stay within the line, and slowly clean it out just enough to lay the pancake box in there. Now, I tried it on for size, and that worked out great. I removed the knockout so I can trace the hole, so I know exactly where I got to drill. And I also marked my mounting holes. To secure the box, I'm using 3 Tapcon screws. And for the main hole for the wire, I'm using a 12-inch 3/4 Mason's bit. And I just repeat the process for all 3 of them. Some of them are going to be solid concrete, and some of them will be easier than others. Once completed, our focus is going to be on the backside. I'm going to use a 3/4 paddle bit to get up into the attic. I'm going to stay out a little bit so I don't hit any studs or joist up there, and get a clear shot right into the attic to push our wire up and through. Now, luckily, this attic was pretty open and clean since it was a new build, but our focus is to go all the way from this left corner, then over to the center, and then work our way to the last one. What I'm using here is these fish sticks, and I tape my wire right onto it, and I'm going to push it up through this corner here, and this is going to help push it over so I can grab it from the access. You don't need to use fish sticks, but what this does is it helps so I don't have to crawl all the way over into the corner. So I'm going to push this up. If you don't have fish sticks, you can just push up the wire and then just crawl all the way over and grab your wire and pull it on to the next one. So I'm going to get this wire to that one and then to the last one, and then we'll be set. Now, as you can see here, I'm using my fish stick hook and pull technique. This is so I don't have to crawl into that corner. And it was successful, and that saved me some time and effort. Got that right here. Then I just got to go ahead and get that down. At this point, I got all the wires ran from the left to the center, and then from the center over to the last coach light at the end. Then I also have my switch leg running exactly to where we're dropping the switch down. I was able to drop it down into the wall, so I just have to cut it out and hope for the best. Now I have my 3 wires here. I put the flex on it
right into the hole there. And now we just have to put this connector on it just to go right outside like this.
And now that we have all our wires ran, we can go back and mount our pancake boxes. Now, with the screw holes, you just have to mount them horizontal and use your Tapcon screws with a 5/16 bit to get it mounted securely. Then use your mounting brackets from your coach lights and get those screwed on. Once I get everything nice and snug, I always go back with my level, so when it's time to mount the coach fixture, they will be nice and level. And let's take a close look here. This is what you want your box to look like right before you hang your coach light. The ground is on the bar and it's ready to go. Wiring your fixture is going to be pretty easy. It's going to be white to white, black to black, ground to ground. You want to make sure you're using good wire nuts and you get them nice and snug, just enough where your wires begin to twist and they're nice and tight, and then you know it's secure. Now we're going to move the wires out of the way. You want to sort of fold them in and under the bracket if you can, but just find a nice little space for each wire nut so it doesn't press up against the back of the fixture. Then you're going to get your screw holes lined up and you're going to put your bolts on. You're going to get it nice and snug, get your right one, your left one, and of course, right at the end, you're going to want to use your level on top to make sure that your fixture is level. And once you get it perfect, get those nice and snug, tighten it up, and that one is secure. Now you put your final glass on there, get that nice and snug also. I like to always put a level at the end just to make sure the whole complete fixture is nice and level. And this is beautiful, perfect.
I'm gonna go with a 40-watt LED vintage. It's gonna look really good.
Now, before you start working with any live power, you want to make sure you find your breaker, and for safety purposes, get everything turned off. What I'm doing here is just getting all the wires pulled out so I can get a clean shot of what we're working with, our neutrals, our grounds, our powers. Then I'm sticking my screwdriver on the right side here to see where the stud is. And of course, the left side is wide open, but there's a stud on the right side. So we're going to install our box on the left-hand side where we have room. Always put your level on it, and I aligned it with the same height as the switch next to it so everything looks nice and even. In case you're wondering, this box is called an old work box. This is a deep box. I like to use deep boxes just to give you more room in the box for your switches and all your wiring connections. Now I'm cutting out the hole. I'm using a multi-tool. This part is pretty simple. You just want to push the installation out of the way so you have a clear view of where your wire is at. So I already pushed it down previously from the attic. Now I just got to find it. And I got lucky on this one. It was right there. So we have our switch leg. Now I need to get a jumper from the live box over to my new box so we can feed the switch. So what I'm doing here is just dropping down a feed wire. And again, we're using 14 2-wire for this. It's only going to be on a 15 amp circuit. So now we have our switch leg coming from the coach lights and our feed coming from the original switch here. And I'm just cutting my insulation off, strip that, have that ready to go. Now, I'm not going to tie anything in yet in this box, but I got it ready to go. You want to get your new work tied in first. Once you get that switch put in and it's ready to go, and then you're going to go back to the box and you're going to tie in your grounds, your neutrals, and your hots. But for now, I'm just stripping everything, getting it ready. Now I'm ready to put my box in. You want to just push these clips in just so you could put your switch leg and your power feed in through the top. That slides in pretty easy. The box should slide in perfectly, and then it has 2 ear tabs, and you're gonna use your screwdriver or your drill just to tighten those up and get it nice and snug. I always start off with my grounds, so I secure my grounds all together, get those pushed out of the way, and then your whites are your neutrals. You're going to go ahead and tie those together. You get those cut back. You want about 6 inches sticking out of the box. You're going to strip them and twist them together. You want to get at least 3 solid twists on your wires before you put your wire nut on. With your blacks, you're just going to get them cut to length and just strip the tips and get them ready to connect to your switch. On this installation, the homeowner wanted to go with a smart switch so he can connect it to his phone and set up a schedule for the lights to turn on. So this is the Lutron cassetta. This comes with pigtails already on it, so you just have to wire nut the black to black. For your switch leg, your hot is just black also. You connect that, and then you just have to connect your ground, and the switch is pretty much wired up. There's no specific labeling to the wires, so it doesn't matter if you switch the switch leg with the power, it'll still work either way. The goal is to make sure the switch sits nice and level, so I always make sure when I put my screws in, I get them nice and snug and make sure that the switch is center of the box so you don't end up with a crooked switch or a crooked plate. And here we're putting the plate on, 2 screws, and then the final trim plate just snaps on nice and easy, and that's it. The cassetta is installed. Now we need to energize everything. I always start with the grounds. So you undo the wire nut for the ground. You're going to go ahead and just wrap that around a few times. You're going to reapply the wire nut back on there, and you can go ahead and tuck those out of the way. Next, I move to my power. I get that twisted on, get the wire nut back on. And last but not least, our neutral white wire. We're going to cut that to size, strip it, twist it on, and securely put the wire nut back on. And once you get everything nice and snug, you're going to tuck all the wires back in the box and safely put everything back together. Once the switch is back in the wall, the plate is back on, then you can turn your breaker back on and you get to test the system, the fun part. The green light is on, we have power, the lights look beautiful. Most importantly, the homeowner's happy. If you learned something from this video, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on the next one.